Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is the much anticipated remaster of the original game that came out on the Wii back in April of 2012. Back then it was critically heralded, but got lost in a time where Wii graphics were getting very long in the tooth, and the Wii U was set to arrive just 7 months after. Wii collectors know what's happened since. Copies of Xenoblade Chronicles were rare and approached the $100 mark before a 3DS port was released 3 years later. With the Wii's outdated graphics and that compacted control scheme on the 3DS, and let me tell you, I played it on the 3DS, and I had to stop because my hands cramped too much trying to do all the controls at once. It was brutal. But yeah, this coupled with the recent success of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Switch, there was a demand for a remastered version of this classic, and now it is here. The new edition is beautiful and improves on the original in every way. The graphics, soundtrack, tutorials, and interface are all redone and make for a better experience. So let's start our look at the game by looking at the world we'll be living in. Living in what was an empty world before two titans, the Bionis and the Mechonis, fought each other and died. His people, the Homs, live on the Bionis, but they're persistently attacked by the Mechon, a race they vow to destroy. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but we're not going to have any spoilers here, so let's just leave it there. It's a large and open world, but pretty barren. There's huge empty spaces between each point you need to get to, and only enemies and items are left out in the open to be found. The enemies are pretty varied, with that classic Xenoblade fingerprint of having level 12 enemies hanging around with level 80s. So one of the most important tips I can give to any new player is do not hesitate to run. There are many points where you're expected to, in fact. Slipping past an unconquerable foe is just Xenoblade tradition at this point. The enemies won't scale up later, so the bigger beasts are meant for down the road. Mercifully, dying doesn't carry too big a penalty. You get to keep everything you gained, and you just get thrown back to the last landmark you reached. It's a little bit of an inconvenience, but that's all. The items are boring, though. There's tons of different things to find, but they're all pretty much out in the open, and all of them are just glowing orbs, usually blue. You can't know what it is till you pick it up. Everything is fairly generic, and you just grab them as you go, really. I mean, it'd be nice if every item had its own identity. The on-screen map will direct you with a yellow line to where you need to go next. So not only do you know where you need to go, you know how to get there. You're never lost, even when you've forgotten what you need to do, which is nice, because you may be playing this game for 60 to 80 hours. This is an improvement over the original version, which only had landmarks and didn't tell you the path you needed to follow. I wish Xenoblade 2 had this, actually, because there were overlapping paths there that were just maddening. You just couldn't figure out where to go. Also here, by pressing ZR, you can get a quick synopsis of what your current goal is at the moment, which also helps. Plus, you don't have a character like Fee telling you. And while all of this will help guide you through the main story and what you need to do next, there are tons of side quests to do as well. I was never a fan of the side quests in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. They often had multiple parts, and it was annoying to have to travel long distances back and forth just to get my rewards when I finished them. There didn't seem to be much benefit in them either. I bet you could beat the whole game without doing a single one. In this game, I find side quests completely boring, but at least they're quick and easy. You generally sign up for quests with the various NPCs in town. It's either kill a bunch of jackalopes or whatever, or find a thing. Finding things is boring because, like I said earlier, you're not looking on screen for the thing itself. It's just a glowing orb. One of the very many you'll see. This is why you just need to go pick everything up all the time, and sometimes when you get the quest, you'll find you already have it, and the quest completes immediately. Hooray! Killing certain enemies is super easy because the map will mark every enemy that's part of a side quest with an exclamation point. You don't even have to think about it. Just hunt down these exclamation point enemies and watch quests finish until you don't see them anymore. This is why I really recommend talking to everyone and anyone with the quest indicator over their head as early as possible so that your map loads up with these targets. Don't go side questing until you talk to everybody, or you'll just waste your time because you might have to go beat the same enemies all over again that you did before. You'll also find a lot of NPCs will feed you multiple quests one after the other, It's lazy and there's a lot of side quests in the game. It's definitely a case of quantity over quality, and it just feels unnecessary. This is easily the worst part of the game. But on the bright side, the quests will complete immediately when you finish them, and you get the rewards right away. For too many of them, though, it's just coins and not even experience. It's useful, but it's not very exciting. Now, let's take a look at the battle system. One of the most controversial battle systems in gaming history is once again on the Switch. What makes Xenoblade different from many other JRPGs is that the battling isn't turn-based and involves a combination of automatic swordplay, or gunplay, along with purposeful art attacks, as they call them. Let's go through how it all works. First, you select which enemy you want to fight, and then initiate the attack. Now, if you stay close to your target, your character will make periodic slashes at the enemy. If you drift too far away, you'll fail to connect. While this is going on, you have various art attacks on the bottom of the screen that will generally be more powerful, but each require their own cooldown after use. Each attack has its own effect and, most importantly, attack angle. Some do more damage when done from the rear, and some others as part of a side attack. When you can, it's best to use them when they're most efficient. Since each one has a cooldown, it's worth the time to move your character into a better position for maximum damage. On top of this, there is the break, topple, daze combination. Certain art attacks are colored in coordination with this. First, you use a pink break attack on an enemy to give them that status. Next, either you or someone else in your party needs to hit them with topple. This generally knocks the enemy to the ground, though not all enemies will succumb to this. Once on the ground, a yellow daze attack will leave them dizzy. In both the topple and daze states, the enemy is unconscious, and it's not only easier to attack them, but your attacks will do slightly more damage. In general, each character can only execute one or two parts of this combination. Shulk, for example, can do break from the beginning, and then later gets daze. You're almost always needing your party members to use the right attack at the right time, and to be honest, it can be a little maddening. Sometimes they just don't do it. Still, it makes the fights manic and chaotic, and frankly, fun. Past that, there are the chain attacks. But first, let me quickly explain the party gauge. In the top left corner of the screen, there's a gauge that fills up and has 3 segments. While battling, you can use one segment of this gauge to perform a special activity such as reviving a fallen ally. As long as you have at least one segment and one member of your party is alive, you can't lose a battle. However, if your character is knocked out and don't have any segments, even if you have both allies alive and fighting, and even just about to finish the enemy off, it's game over. Lame! But here's the thing. If you have all 3 segments lit up, you can do what's called a chain attack. Each party member takes a turn picking one attack, and this is the only time you get to control everybody's attack at once. It's a bit confusing, but basically if you pick the same color attacks like red, you up your chance to get a quick time opportunity to extend the chain and add more and more attacks. This quick time is really just a circle that squeezes down and you try to press it at the right moment. The affinity you have with your fellow party members will decide how many links to the chain you can add, and ultimately how strong the whole attack is. Early on in the game, it's not a strong strategy, but as you advance and the chains get longer, they're crucial for taking out the toughest enemies. Now, if you've been paying attention, you'll realize there's a risk-reward to this system. By using up all of your segments, you could find yourself completely lost if the character you're controlling is knocked out. So I recommend holding off on using the chain attack unless your whole party is safe and healthy. Well, mostly healthy. Or you think you can finish the enemy off completely. Trust me, it all feels natural after a little bit of time. Don't be worried. But do know that with most enemies, you don't even need to bother with the chain attack. You do certainly want to work on improving your character's affinity with each other by giving each other gifts. But you're going to need a lot of affinity for these chain attacks when you fight bosses, especially as the game progresses. And that's all the fundamentals of the game. So, what do I think about it? Xenoblade Chronicles is a fine game, but perhaps too safe of a game. It's 8 years old in America, and it feels every one of those years. These days, we're used to games like The Witcher or The Outer Worlds, where our interactions with characters are more rich, but you're often left feeling a bit disconnected from the story here. Even Xenoblade 2 had much better dialogue and character interactions, and made you love the characters like Pyra and Mithra, and even Poppy's sex robot. But here, I don't know, Rhine just doesn't do much for me. As of right now, I'm about a quarter of the way through the game. I've gotten much further than I ever have before, and I'm really enjoying meeting new characters that I never knew about previously. I like being able to customize my party and figure out who works well together, and the story is my favorite part. But I can't say I'm loving the game. Right now, it's right in between mildly enjoyable and feeling like a chore. I don't think a game of this length should feel that way. You should be excited to pick a game like this back up again each day, and just make the hours just drip by. I'm just not there yet. We'll see. I'll keep going and finish it because I want to see how the story ends, but I can't say I'd recommend it for everyone. In fact, I bet all of the other games that came out on the same day as this one would be more fun to play. Still, Xenoblade plays an important part in Nintendo history, and the incredible Xenoblade 2, and likely third game in the series down the road, certainly makes this one worth playing. And this is easily the best version of it available, by far. And if that wasn't enough, there's a new standalone epilogue added to the game called Future Connected, which takes place a year after the events of this game, and it's a whole new adventure. You can easily take 100 hours to play through the entire package. If you've got a lot of time in your hands and want to play through a beloved, epic adventure, give it a go. But if not, there are more enjoyable and shorter RPGs to play.
I'm all
I've
over
got it.
that. Alrighty.
There we go.
Woo. To you.
There we go.
Nice one. Alrighty.
To me.
Nice one. Alrighty.
There we go.
Awesome. Alrighty.
To me.
Like this
Awesome.
review?
To
Hear
you.
more from
To
me,
me.
John Blanco, and my co-host Drew on the Dads After Dark show, a part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts.
Alrighty.
You can find us on your favorite podcasting app, as well as YouTube on the Nintendo Dads channel.
There we go.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot.